All right, let's talk about Zcash. For years, this cryptocurrency has kind of been flying under the radar, but suddenly something's happening, and it has the entire market buzzing. So we're going to dig in and figure out what's going on. And this is why we're talking about it right now. Look at that number, a massive, nearly 300% surge in value in just a matter of weeks. I mean, that's a parabolic move. It's got everyone asking the same simple question: what on earth is going on with Zcash? You know, this quote from a pretty popular crypto influencer, it just nails the raw energy behind all this hype. It's not just about the numbers on a chart, right? It's a whole vibe, a feeling of rebellion. So the question is this just a speculative bubble, or is there something more fundamental going on here? Okay, so to answer that, we've got to really understand what's behind this surge. We're going to look at the technology, its history, and, the reality of how it's actually used today. Probably the best way to wrap your head around Zcash is to start with Bitcoin, because Zcash was basically built from a copy of Bitcoin's code, but it was designed to do one crucial thing that Bitcoin just can't. And that one thing is privacy. See, Zcash is a cryptocurrency that gives its users a choice. You can send a transaction that's totally public, just like on Bitcoin, or you can choose to make it completely private. And this whole idea of optional privacy, that is the absolute core of what makes Zcash, Zcash. So here's the key difference, right? Think of Bitcoin like a public trail of breadcrumbs. Sure, it's pseudonymous, but anyone can follow that trail. Zcash's shielded transactions, on the other hand, make that trail go completely dark. The sender, the receiver, the amount. Poof, it's all hidden. Now, Zcash didn't just pop up overnight. It actually started as an academic project way back in 2013, launched for real in 2016, and it's been quietly upgrading and improving ever since. There were some really key moments, like in 2020 when an upgrade made its funding more decentralized, and more recently, the Halo 2 integration made its privacy features way more efficient to use. So how does Zcash actually hide that trail? Well, the answer is a pretty wild cryptographic breakthrough with a name that's memorable to say the least: zk-SNARKs. Okay, let's start with the central problem that Zcash was built to solve. And just think about this for a second. How can you prove to a network that you have enough money to send and that you haven't already spent it without actually revealing who you are, who you're paying, or how much you're sending? I mean, it sounds completely impossible, right? Well, the solution is something called a zk-SNRK, which stands for a zero-knowledge proof. It's basically a way to prove that you know something without revealing the information itself. So for a transaction, it's like proving you have enough money in your bank account without telling anyone your balance, your name, or who you're paying. The network just gets a simple, yep, this is valid, and that's it. It's a genuine cryptographic magic trick. So in practice, what this really means is that Zcash gives you two different types of addresses. You've got a T address, which is transparent. It works just like Bitcoin. But then you have a Z address, and that one is shielded. Any transaction that uses it is kept totally private by those zk-SNARKs. So the technology is obviously really powerful. But this brings us to the central paradox of Zcash, because its greatest strength is also, well, its biggest weakness. And the reality here is, well, it's pretty stark. Even with this incredible cutting-edge privacy tech, historically, only about 4% of all Zcash transactions are actually fully private. The huge majority of what happens on the network happens right out in the open. And here's the real kicker. When almost nobody uses the privacy feature, it actually makes the privacy weaker for everyone. It's like trying to hide in a crowd, but the crowd is only 3 other people. You stand out. Because of this, firms that specialize in blockchain analysis say they can still track the overwhelming majority of all Zcash activity. So, with all that said, where does that leave Zcash right now? Well, after that massive run-up, its market cap is sitting over $3.5 billion. And hey, notice this. Its supply is set up exactly like Bitcoin's, a hard cap of 21 million coins, with most of them already out there. Okay, so you've got this powerful tech with really low adoption and a price that seems to be driven almost entirely by hype. So what is the real future for Zcash? Let's weigh the potential against the reality. All right, let's bring it all together. On the plus side, Zcash has this groundbreaking optional privacy, and it's generally faster and cheaper than Bitcoin. It's also got a decentralized, self-funded development model, which is cool. The problem? Almost no one actually uses that core privacy feature. Plus, it faces a ton of regulatory pressure, just like all privacy coins. And yeah, that recent price surge looks an awful lot like pure speculation. So, if you're curious about how this all works in the real world, it's basically a three-step process. First, you get some Zcash on an exchange. But here's the crucial part. You then have to move it to a special privacy-focused wallet, like Zashi. Then, from there, you can use a private Z address to send and receive. And that kind of leaves us with this one big final thought. Zcash presents this fascinating conflict between amazing technology and, well, real-world adoption. But when you look past the charts and all the hype, it really forces us to ask a much bigger question. In a world where pretty much everything we do is tracked, what's the real price and the true value of financial privacy?